success has come in a different package than I expected. I know when I graduated, I still had the disability, and I really wanted to be able to go out and help other people. And before that, I thought, well, I have a disability, and the only way I'm going to find happiness or success and I can help others is if I find a way to overcome it.
Thank you for joining this new episode of the To Freedom podcast. My guest today is Michelle Steiner. Michelle is a writer, speaker, and disability advocate who has spent much of her life being told what she couldn't do because of an invisible disability. She went on to earn her bachelor's degree, become a published writer, and build a career supporting students with disabilities. Today, Michelle uses her own experiences to challenge assumptions about disability and remind others that a diagnosis does not have to define what is possible. Welcome, Michelle. Hi, Michelle. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Oh, it's great to be here. I'm excited to have this conversation.
So am I. I just saw yesterday that you had a children's book that was published. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today, but it wasn't in time to get it. And so I want to know all about that. But my goodness, Michelle, you've accomplished so much in your life despite being told what you couldn't do. So before diving in deeper into your story today, can you tell us a little bit about your childhood and what it was for you growing up with an invisible disability?
Well, I was diagnosed very early on with having one in my childhood. I was diagnosed in kindergarten with having one. My teacher noticed I was having a lot of difficulty in the classroom with counting, with tying my shoes, and with writing my name. And she recommended to my parents that I get tested for having a learning disability. And sure enough, I do. And I can remember I had to repeat the grade at a different school, and it was really hard for me all 12 years of my schooling. I struggled to learn, and I also had difficulty with socializing with my peers. I was bullied very early on, all throughout my school years. And when I went throughout school, it was really hard, especially in the beginning. I can just remember being really frustrated and I wanted to learn so much and I just couldn't do that. And I didn't think that my life was going to work out for me all because I had this disability. And I was really lucky though that I had a great set of parents. My mom and dad could always were the ones that advocated for me and supported me. We had a lot of long, tearful homework sessions together, but they also saw what I was good at. And one of those key things was writing. And my dad found a story in second or third grade about a dinosaur that I wrote. And he said, wow, Michelle wrote this and it was really good. And that really was the game changer in my life too, because that reading and writing became my world. My dad also read to me every night when I was little, and that really helped throughout as I went through my school years. Now, school got easier for me as I went throughout the school years. In high school, I was in all regular ed classes except for math and a resource room. My grades were doing really well. Socially, it got a lot harder. I really didn't feel like I fit in, and the groups were more defined and it was really difficult and the bullying really intensified and I just wasn't having that connection with my peers. So I found an art group outside of our school district that I found other peers that had the same interest and didn't go to my school, and I was able to shed that reputation of an outcast. And I that also led me to another group. I found a writing group for adults, and as a late teenager, and they encouraged me to write about having a learning disability, but I thought, oh no, that's way too personal. And I wrote some really bad poetry and some other things I would not want to read today. And what's really amazing is 30 some years later, we still meet once a month to talk about our writing and we're in each other's lives. So that really worked out well. But another significant thing that really happened as I was a teenager, though, was what I was going to do after high school. I knew I wanted to go to college, but I understood with a disability it would be really hard. And I wasn't alone in my doubts and my fears. I had a learning support teacher who told me that she didn't think I could handle college and recommended a trade school, but nothing there interested me. And looking back on what everybody thought was going to be easier, would have been a lot harder for me. Nobody wants me to cut their hair. There's math involved in cooking, and I can't drive, so I don't think that anyone would expect me to drive an ambulance or a police car.
Right. So, Michelle, if you would have surrendered to being stereotyped and to the stories that people were saying about you, where do you think your life would have been today?
I think my life would have been somebody who couldn't handle maybe having a basic job because I would go for jobs that were these menial tasks, and I don't know how well I would perform at them. I might not even be employed at that point. There's a huge percentage of people with disabilities. I believe it's 80% of people with disabilities that they're not able, they don't work. And I don't think I don't think I would have went on to college. I would have thought, oh, that's too hard. And I think I just would have decided not to do that. I don't think I would have had enough confidence to go out and become a writer. And I don't think I would have had confidence to speak about my story of having a disability. I don't think I would have the interest that I do now, or the photography, or just all those wonderful experiences that I experienced with going forward with knowing this is what I wanted to do. And I think a lot of it would have been letting other people hold that pen in their hand, and they would be the ones writing my story rather than me doing that.
So, when you were told over and over again in your childhood that you can't, how did that impact you emotionally?
I spent a lot of time being really negative. I thought, well, I can't do this. And I had like a sense of learned helplessness. And that was something that the staff at school really noticed whenever I was young. They really thought, well, we don't want her to develop learned helplessness. So they really encouraged me to do a lot of things. And they really went on the things I could change and I could control and that I was good at. They knew that I was good with reading. So they encouraged me to read because of the reading expression. And they encouraged me to do public speaking. And all of those things really made that impression on me and really encouraged me in life.
So, you were also told that you will never be able to do a master's degree yet. You have one today. So,
I
how
don't
did that happen in your head? How did you decide, you know what? I'm going to do it?
Right. I do have a bachelor's degree. I don't have a master's degree, but I think to myself, success has come in a different package than I expected. I know when I graduated, I still had the disability, and I really wanted to be able to go out and help other people. And before that, I thought, well, I have a disability, and the only way I'm going to find happiness or success and I can help others is if I find a way to overcome it. And like I said, when I graduated, I still had the learning disability, but I had this new sense of confidence, and it just really boosted that in me.
So, your disability, you said, is invisible. And what do you think were the biggest struggles that people around you simply couldn't see?
I think people can't see why I can't do math. I think we have people just think, oh, well, you're not trying, or you just need this right educational program, or you're behind, or no one ever showed you. And we've had countless struggles. People can't see that it's really difficult for me to be able to follow the steps in a math problem. It's hard for me to be able to budget. It's also, I'm not able to read the face of a clock, and I have to use my digital watch. And that's not being unmotivated. It's not society being lazy. It's just simply this is what I need to do to function in my world. People also can't see the visual perception issues as well. Well, they can see that I do trip over things, and it's difficult for me to be able to like catch a ball and things with team sports. So they can see that. And the hand dexterity, that can be something that is also misunderstood. People, whenever I was a lot younger, would see my handwriting as I was sloppy or I was careless. And I wasn't diagnosed until I was an adult that that's the reason why my handwriting is like that. And that's why things will fall out of my hands. And sometimes that can be difficult too, because people can see maybe that I've learned how to adapt, but others don't quite understand that. I can remember I was in the grocery store years ago, and I was unloading my cart, and I was just, yeah, putting everything on the conveyor belt. And I can remember I had a woman come over to me and she starts unloading my cart. And I said, "Oh, thank you." And she goes, "Oh, yeah, I'd like to help people when you look like you really needed help." And that was probably one of those first experiences where somebody could see that maybe I did things a little bit differently.
Yeah. And it's interesting. My husband from a previous marriage has a special needs son who's an adult now. He lives
Mhm.
with us, and with him from a distance, you will never be able to tell. And he's very high
Mhm.
functioning that he has limitations. So I think a lot of times people look at him and assume to they
Yeah.
expect a normal response and they're not going to get it. So we've seen that. Yet he's adapted so well to life. So that kind
Mhm.
of leads me into how did you within yourself separate who you truly are from the limitations other people placed on you?
I had to look at the things that I really enjoy doing and that I like to do. And those are when I'm writing or I'm reading or I'm taking pictures, I don't feel that I'm disabled. I feel empowered. I feel happy. And those are the things that do bring that joy. And those are the things I'm also able to have control over and that I can that I can change. The things I can't change in life are the fact that I have a learning disability. I can't change that I'm not able to drive. I can't change that I can't do math very well. And I also can't change that my hands have limited dexterity in both of them. And I also can't control somebody's reaction or what somebody says or what somebody
Love that.
thinks.
Yeah.
The only thing I can do is can change and control my reactions. And back to having the hidden piece too, people will say, "Well, you don't look like you have a disability," and I'll say, then I have to explain there's ones you can see and there's ones that you can't.
Mhm.
And I'll also get people with that too that'll say, "Well, I'm giving you a compliment when I say you don't look like you're disabled," and that's really not a compliment because there's nothing wrong with having a disability that you can or that you can't see.
Right. Right. It's interesting because my mind goes to when I was a young mother with two boys who both had learning disabilities, and how easy it was for them to be labeled. And I
Hmm.
learned back then that no two people learn the same way, but
Right.
it's very easy for society to place everybody in the same box. And for myself, even, if I think back on my high school years, many, many, many decades ago, I really struggled because I was told to learn in a certain way and I couldn't learn like that. And it took me many years as an adult to catch up and to understand that this is how I learn. I'm not going to fit into your box.
Right.
So yeah, I think your story just so resonates with me. And what I love most of what you just said, Michelle, is I think every person on this planet struggles at some point with what other people say about them. But you
Mhm.
figured out that, I cannot control it. It actually is none of my business. I absolutely love that.
Yep. Thank you. It took me a long time to learn that.
Yeah, no, it takes some time, and because I think all of us want to be accepted, and you have to get to that point where you understand, what, it's none of my business if they don't see that. So good for you. So let's move a little bit to you talk about your work with students today who has disabilities. And
Yes.
it's almost like this is your purpose. So how has your journey shaped the way you encourage them, understanding where they are coming from? How do you encourage them?
I feel that with having a disability, that I'm able to be empathetic towards my students because I know where a lot of them are sitting and I can understand that. Not every single person, I haven't experienced anyone else's life other than my own, but I see a lot of similarities. Sometimes it's almost even like hearing a recording of myself. I work with middle school age kids and I'll hear, "Oh, I hate having my learning disability. I think it makes me stupid," or "I hate having my disability." And I get that chance to go in and say, your learning disability doesn't make you stupid. You are very smart. And I also get that opportunity to tell them that having a disability isn't a bad thing. And I can also show them how to advocate for themselves. Sometimes we'll have students that will be struggling with their work. And I'll say, okay, well, let's go to your teacher and ask for help, especially if it's math. All the kids know I can't help with math, or they're going to find out pretty soon. And the students will say, well, I'm afraid. And I'll say, it's okay. I'll go with you. And I really will, I'll go up with them and I'll stand back in the corner and I'll be there for support, but I really try to get them to ask for that help and that support. And one of the greatest joys is when I take that scared student in the beginning of the year that's so afraid to ask for help. And then by the mid-year, the end of the year, they're raising their hand and they're asking for help on their own, and they don't need me to do that. And I think it's so important because all my students one day will leave me, but for so many of them, their disabilities are going to stay. So it's so important that we teach those skills now so they know how to handle that as an adult.
That's so beautiful, Michelle. And I'm just thinking of, when you hear the same message repeatedly from people, how do you help your students to overcome being stereotyped?
I try to really focus on things they can do and the things that they can change. But more importantly, I ask them what they want to do with their lives. And sometimes I'll have students that will tell me things that maybe people might think that that may not be a possibility. And I think it's really important that we encourage them to have a plan. And if something is maybe difficult, even for the average person to go out there and do, that we might say, all right, well, why don't we think of a backup plan, something that's really close to that. And I've had to do that myself too. But we really want to encourage people to go out and have those dreams and to know what they are and to be able to find a way to do that. And if your original plan doesn't work, to find something really close to it.
So looking back at yourself and what you faced, do you think your biggest obstacle to overcome was your disability, accepting that, or other people's expectations?
I think it was both. I think I had to, first of all, grieve and accept that I had a learning disability and my brain worked differently than everybody else's or someone that was neurotypical, and that was all right. That was the first thing I had to do. And then I also had to realize with information that other people were giving me to really think that is this something that's going to help me? Or is this something that just this advice maybe isn't just for me? It might be for somebody else. I could see that a lot with career choices, especially as an adult. I can remember I had a psychiatrist telling me I couldn't go beyond community college. I had professors telling me I was going to have limited job choices. And I had to realize that they, just because somebody says something, it's not necessarily true. And to really give that careful thought and consideration of, well, what do I want to do? What do I want to invest in? And a really good example of that was I knew that I wanted to work with students in a school, but I knew being a teacher would be beyond what I could do. I couldn't pass a lot of the certification tests. I also knew that some of the coursework would be really hard for me to be able to teach. But what is the closest thing to that? And that's a teacher's assistant. And I had a lot of backlash from other people. And I still get that sometimes where people will say, well, why don't you go back to school to become an elementary school teacher? And I have to explain, I just can't, that's just not in the cards for me. It's really not what I can do. And then I'll have other people. I can remember somebody saying years ago, if you just got your act together, you could become an elementary school teacher. And I was doing everything I could do, but I knew that that just wasn't the right path. And then I've had other people that have said, well, why don't you stock shelves? Or uh, it's beyond your capabilities to get published or to do something in communications. And I've had to learn to silence that and to say, I can do it if might just come in a success that maybe other people may not fit into their box, but can it fit into something that would help me?
So what you just said at the beginning of this was how much your parents helped you. And it reminded me instantly of Thomas Edison, because I don't know if you know the story. I think it's Thomas Edison. I hope I'm not wrong. Of he had a single mother, and one day
Mhm.
he came home with a letter from the school principal, and so his mother read the letter, and he asked her, what does it say? And she said that the principal said that we're honored to have him in our class, in our school, keep doing this great work. And so when she passed away many years later and he cleaned up her stuff, he found this original letter, and it actually said that basically he's not going to make it, he's not intelligent enough, you should find another school for him. So to me, it's, the messaging from your parents, I think, changed so much in their life. And I want to say thank you to them, because I've seen the opposite as well, where parents can break down a child or just surrender on your behalf. So um, when you look at your students today, and you encounter one of them who do not have the parental support that you had, how do you approach that? How do you help them?
One of the things that we try to tell them is to really encourage them, well, what is it that you would like to do? How is that, what is it that you want? And to really give them those tools and those resources to what their life would be like and their dreams, and to really be that for a lot of our students too. I think sometimes also we have students that might come in that don't have that support, but we try to provide maybe that support at school with them as much as we can. That can look very different in very different ways. Sometimes it can be going through the backpack to look for a paper that a student might have that they need to get turned in and they don't think they have it. And then we go through and we'll get some folders and we'll mark them. And then it might be once a week we go through the backpack and we do some organizing. Sometimes it might be studying for a test. Sometimes parents do not study with their children at home, or kids don't take that initiative, especially because they're young, to go study on their independently. So I'll quiz them on maybe some spelling words or some things for the science test. Sometimes it's just listening to them too, especially if a child doesn't feel like mom and dad are there to listen, or they don't feel like someone else is doing that. I think sometimes that's really powerful as well.
I think being stereotyped in life doesn't only go to people with disabilities. I think it's difficult, especially today with social media. Everybody has
Mhm.
opinions about everything and everybody. I actually watched a documentary last night about a murder that happened, and immediately social media went crazy about the roommates. And it was never them, but social media from day one labeled them. So how do you help people to just escape from labels?
I think that not to let a label define them, and to be the kind of person they want to be. And also that a label or a diagnosis is just one part of the person. It's one part of me that I have dyscalculia. It's another part of me that I have limited hand dexterity, and it's also that other part with the visual perception. But there's also other things that are about me. I'm a writer, I'm a photographer, I'm a wife. I'm a para educator, and I just think I'm a friend, I'm a daughter. There's so many other labels in my life that makes up the whole person, and the disability is just one part of that as well.
So, Michelle, you yesterday your new children's book was published. Is it How a Ladybug Loses Its Spots? Can you just remind us what the title is?
Sure. The ladybug who could not count her spots.
The Ladybug Who Could Not Count Her Spots. Beautiful. Tell us about your book, and who did you write it for, and what is the story behind the story?
My story is about a ladybug named Luna that is about ready to go to school, but she cannot count her spots. And she goes to school, and it's really difficult for her to be able to count them. Her big sister can count her spots, all of her classmates can, but she's struggling with that despite how hard she's trying. And she goes through and she's able to uh, find out that she has dyscalculia, and she learns about having that math disability. And that is one of the things that the book was written for children. that might have a learning disability with math, or I mean, they can have other learning disabilities as well. But I can remember whenever I was in school, all of my peers struggled more with reading or behavior issues, and I felt like I was the odd one out with having difficulties with math. I really didn't hear about dyscalculia. I didn't know a lot of people that had that. And I wanted to write a book that is not about dyslexia or other types of learning disabilities. I wanted to write one specifically about dyscalculia and explain it to maybe for a young child that might be experiencing that as well.
And Michelle, where is it for sale?
Right now, it is available online with Start to Write with the link. It's a digital publication for now. It's online. There might be a possibility of having a print book in the future.
That's wonderful. I will definitely share the link in the
Thank
description
you.
of this video. So, or recording, I should say, because some people actually do not watch, they listen. So, Michelle, also, I saw online, yes, or late last night or early this morning, can't remember when, that you also were in a book collaboration.
Yes,
Tell us
I have
about
one.
that.
Sure, I have one, The Cost of Our Strength, and it will be coming out on August the 14th. And different people wrote about the cost of like what we paid for with our strength. And some of that was the strength that I had to pay for with having a disability, and the stigma was that cost, and getting the supports and the accommodations.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I'll definitely have to have that link in the description as well.
Yes.
Now, Michelle, I always ask my guests this question, and it's a very important one for me. What does freedom mean to you today?
Freedom means for me today to be able to have that where I get that chance in my life to be able to plan how I want to live my life as well. I have that opportunity to know the jobs that I want, the activities that I love to do. I get that freedom to choose the people that I would love to have in my life, in my inner circle, and I'm able to live that life, and I don't have to live what somebody else's idea is. I can be able to, I have the freedom to choose how I would like to live.
That's absolutely beautiful, Michelle. I really appreciate being so open and sharing your absolutely beautiful, successful life with us today. Going from being labeled to being free today and living your life the best way you can, accepting your limitations while also deciding that you can thrive despite of it. So I think you are such a beautiful example of what freedom can be. So thank you so much, Michelle, for being here with us today. And
Thank
how
you.
can people be in touch with you?
You can find me at my blog, www.michellesmission.com, and I'm also on Facebook and Instagram.
Excellent. Again, I will share all those links. So I went onto Michelle's blog, and it's an interesting page to go on. So I encourage all of you to go on there and see what she's up to today. So Michelle, thanks again for being here, and thank you to all our guests and listeners for tuning in today. We will see you next time with more freedom.
Thank you so much.